Sacramento is the capital city of the U.S. state of California and the seat of Sacramento County. It is at the confluence of the Sacramento River and the American River in the northern portion of California's expansive Central Valley. Its estimated 2014 population of 485,199 made it the sixth largest city in California and the 35th largest city in the United States. Sacramento is the cultural and economic core of the Sacramento metropolitan area, which includes 7 counties with a 2010 population of 2,414,783. Its metropolitan area is the fourth largest in California after the Greater Los Angeles area, the San Francisco Bay Area, and the San Diego metropolitan area, and is the 27th largest in the United States. In 2002, the Civil Rights Project at Harvard University conducted for Time magazine named Sacramento America's most diverse city. Sacramento became a city through the efforts of the Swiss immigrant John Sutter, Sr., his son John Augustus Sutter, Jr., and James W. Marshall. Sacramento grew quickly thanks to the protection of Sutter's Fort, which was established by Sutter in 1839. During the California Gold Rush, Sacramento was a major distribution point, a commercial and agricultural center, and a terminus for wagon trains, stagecoaches, riverboats, the telegraph, the Pony Express, and the first transcontinental railroad. The city was named after the Sacramento River, which forms its western border. The river was named by Spanish cavalry officer Gabriel Moraga for the Santissimo Sacramento, referring to the Catholic Eucharist. California State University, Sacramento, more commonly known as Sacramento State or Sac State, is the largest university in the city and one of 23 campuses in the California State University system. University of the Pacific's Sacramento campus is a private university with one of its 3 campuses in Sacramento. In addition, the University of California, Davis, is in nearby Davis, 15 miles west of the capital. The UC Davis Medical Center, a world-renowned research hospital, is located in the city of Sacramento. History. Indigenous culture and as Annan and Plains Miwok Native Americans had lived in the area for perhaps thousands of years. Unlike the settlers who would eventually make Sacramento their home, these Native Americans left little evidence of their existence. Traditionally, their diet was dominated by acorns taken from the plentiful oak trees in the region, and by fruits, bulbs, seeds, and roots gathered throughout the year. Spanish exploration. In 1808, the Spanish explorer Gabriel Moraga discovered and named the Sacramento Valley and the Sacramento River. A Spanish writer with the Moraga expedition wrote, "Canopies of oaks and cottonwoods, many festooned with grapevines, overhung both sides of the blue current. Birds chattered in the trees and big fish darted through the pellucid depths. The air was like champagne, and drank deep of it, drank in the beauty around them. Es como el Sagrado Sacramento." The valley and the river were then christened after the most holy sacrament of the body and blood of Christ, referring to the Catholic sacrament of the Eucharist. Mexican period. Sutter's Fort in New Helvetia. John Sutter first arrived on August 13, 1839 at the divergence of the American and Sacramento rivers with a Mexican land grant of 50,000 acres. The next year, he and his party established Sutter's Fort, a massive adobe structure with walls 18 feet high and 3 feet thick. Representing Mexico, Sutter called his colony New Helvetia, a Swiss-inspired name, and was the political authority and dispenser of justice in the new settlement. settlement. Soon, the colony began to grow as more and more pioneers headed west. Within just a few short years, John Sutter had become a grand success, owning a 10-acre orchard and a herd of 13,000 cattle. Fort Sutter became a regular stop for the increasing number of immigrants coming through the valley. In 1847, Sutter hired James Marshall to build a sawmill so that he could continue to expand his empire. From pioneers to gold fever, Sutter received 2,000 fruit trees in 1847, which started the agriculture industry in the Sacramento Valley. In 1848, when gold was discovered by James W. Marshall at Sutter's mill in Coloma, northeast of the fort, a large number of gold seekers came to the area, increasing the population. John Sutter, Jr. then planned the city of Sacramento 2 miles south of New Helvetia in association with Sam Brannan against the wishes of his father, naming the city after the Sacramento River for commercial reasons. He hired topographical engineer William H. Warner to draft the official layout of the city, which included 26 lettered and 31 numbered streets. However, a bitterness grew between the elder Sutter and his son as Sacramento became an overnight commercial success. The citizens of Sacramento adopted a city charter in 1849, which was recognized by the state legislature in 1850. Sacramento is the oldest incorporated city in California, incorporated on February 27, 1850. During the early 1850s, the Sacramento Valley was devastated by floods, fires and cholera epidemics. Despite this, because of its position just downstream from the mother lode in the Sierra Nevada, the new city grew, quickly reaching a population of 10,000. Remnants of downtown Sacramento's Chinatown throughout the early 1840s and 1850s. China was at war with Great Britain and France in the First and Second Opium Wars. The wars, along with endemic poverty in China, helped drive many Chinese immigrants to America. Many first came to San Francisco, which was then the largest city in California, which was known as Daifao, and some came eventually to Sacramento, which is known as Yifao. Many of these immigrants came in hopes for a better life as well as the possibility of finding gold in the foothills east of Sacramento. Sacramento's Chinatown was located on I Street from 2nd to 6th Streets. At the time, this area of I Street was considered a health hazard as, lying within a levee zone, it was lower than other parts of the city which were situated on higher land. Throughout Sacramento's Chinatown history there were fires, acts of discrimination, and prejudicial legislation such as the Chinese Exclusion Act that was not repealed until 1943. The mysterious fires were thought to be set off by those who did not take a liking to the Chinese working class. Ordinances on what was viable building material were set into place to try to get the Chinese to move out. Newspapers such as the Sacramento Union, at the time, wrote stories that portrayed the Chinese in an unfavorable light to inspire ethnic discrimination and drive the Chinese away. As the years passed, a railroad was created over parts of the Chinatown, and further politics and laws would make it even harder for Chinese workers to sustain a living in Sacramento, while the east side of the country fought for higher wages and fewer working hours. Many cities in the western United States wanted the Chinese out because of the belief that they were stealing jobs from the white working class. The Chinese remained resilient despite these efforts. They built the buildings out of bricks just as the building guidelines established. They helped build part of the railroads that spanned the city, as well as making a great contribution to the transcontinental railroad that spans the United States. They also helped build the levees within Sacramento and the surrounding cities. As a result, they are a well-recognized part of Sacramento's history and heritage. While most of Sacramento's Chinatown has now been razed, a small Chinatown Mall remains, as well as a museum dedicated to the history of Sacramento's Chinatown and the contributions Chinese Americans have made to the city. Amtrak sits along what was part of Sacramento's Chinatown I Street. Capital City. The California State Legislature, with the support of Governor John Bigler, moved to Sacramento in 1854. The capital of California under Spanish rule had been Monterey, where in 1849 the first constitutional convention and state elections were held. The convention decided that San Jose would be the new state's capital. After 1850, when California's statehood was ratified, the legislature met in San Jose until 1851, Vallejo in 1852, and Benicia in 1853, before moving to Sacramento. In the 1879 Constitutional Convention, Sacramento was named to be the permanent state capital, begun in 1860 to be reminiscent of the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. The classical revival-style California state capitol was completed in 1874. In 1861, the legislative session was moved to the Merchants Exchange Building in San Francisco for one session because of massive flooding in Sacramento. The legislative chambers were first occupied in 1869 while construction continued. From 1862 to 1868, part of the Leland-Stanford Mansion was used for the governor's offices during Stanford's tenure as the governor, and the legislature met in the Sacramento County Courthouse. With its new status and strategic location, Sacramento quickly prospered and became the western end of the Pony Express. Later it became a terminus of the first transcontinental railroad, which began construction in Sacramento in 1863 and was financed by the Big Four: Mark Hopkins, Charles Crocker, Collis P. Huntington, and Leland Stanford. In 1850 and again in 1861, Sacramento citizens were faced with a completely flooded town. After the devastating 1850 flood, Sacramento experienced a cholera epidemic and a flu epidemic which crippled the town for several years. In 1861, Governor Leland Stanford, who was inaugurated in early January 1861, had to attend his inauguration in a rowboat, which was not too far from his house in town on N Street. The flood waters were so bad, the legend says, that when he returned to his house, he had to enter into it through the second-floor window. From 1862 until the mid-1870s, Sacramento raised the level of its downtown by building reinforced brick walls on its downtown streets, and filling the resulting street walls with dirt. Thus the previous first floors of buildings became the basements, with open space between the street and the building, previously the sidewalk, now at the basement level. Most property owners used screwjacks to raise the buildings to the new grade. The sidewalks were covered, initially by wooden sidewalks, then brick barrel vaults, and eventually replaced by concrete sidewalks. Over the years, many of these underground spaces have been filled or destroyed by subsequent development. However, it is still possible to view portions of the Sacramento Underground. The same rivers that earlier brought death and destruction began to provide increasing levels of transportation and commerce. Both the American and especially Sacramento rivers would be key elements in the economic success of the city. In fact, Sacramento effectively controlled commerce on these rivers. and public works projects were funded, though taxes levied on goods unloaded from boats and loaded onto rail cars in the historic Sacramento rail yards. Now both rivers are used extensively for recreation. The American River is a 5 mph waterway for all power boats and has become an international attraction for rafters and kayaking. The Sacramento River sees many boaters who can make day trips to nearby sloughs or continue along the Delta to the Bay Area and San Francisco. The Delta King, a paddle-wheel steamboat which for 18 months lay on the bottom of the San Francisco Bay, was refurbished and now boasts a hotel, a restaurant, and 2 different theaters for nightlife along the old Sacramento River front. Modern era. The city's current charter was adopted by voters in 1920. As a charter city, Sacramento is exempt from many laws and regulations passed by the state legislature. The city has expanded continuously over the years. The 1964 merger of the city of North Sacramento with Sacramento substantially increased its population, and large annexations of the Natomas area eventually led to significant population growth throughout the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. Sacramento County is served by customer-owned electric utility, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. Sacramento voters approved the creation of SMUD in 1923. In April 1946, after 12 years of litigation, a judge ordered Pacific Gas and AMP Electric to transfer title of Sacramento's electric distribution system to SMUD. Today SMUD is the 6th largest public electric utility in the U.S., and is a leader for innovative programs and services, including the development of clean fuel resources such as solar power. The year following the creation of SMUD, 1924, brought several events in Sacramento. Standard Oil executive Vern McGeorge established McGeorge School of Law. American department store Weinstock and AMP Lubone opened a new store at 12th and K Street. The $2 million Senator Hotel was open. Sacramento's drinking water became filtered and treated drinking water, and Sacramento boxer Georgie Lee fought Francisco Guerrero, a Filipino professional boxer known as Pancho Villa, at L Street Auditorium on March 21. Early in World War II, the Sacramento Assembly Center was established to house Japanese Americans forcibly evacuated from the West Coast under Executive Order 9066. The camp was one of 15 temporary detention facilities where over 110,000 Japanese Americans, 2/3 of them U.S. citizens, were held while construction on the more permanent War Relocation Authority camps was completed. The Assembly Center was built on the site of a former migrant labor camp, and inmates began arriving from Sacramento and San Joaquin counties on May 6, 1942. It closed after only 52 days, on June 26, and the population of 4,739 was transferred to the Tule Lake concentration camp. The site was then turned over to the Army Signal Corps and dedicated as Camp Cola. After the war and the end of the incarceration program, returning Japanese Americans were often unable to find housing, and so 234 families temporarily lived at the former Assembly Center. Camp Cola was destroyed by a fire in December 1947, and the Assembly Center site is now a part of the Foothill Farms North Highlands subdivision. The Sacramento Yolo Port District was created in 1947, and ground was broken on the Port of Sacramento in 1949. On June 29, 1963, with 5,000 spectators waiting to welcome her, the motor vessel Type A Victory arrived. The port was open for business. The nationalist Chinese flagship, freshly painted for the historic event, was loaded with 5,000 tons of bagged rice for Mitsui Trading Co., bound for Okinawa, and 1,000 tons of logs for Japan. She was the first ocean-going vessel in Sacramento since the steamship Harpoon in 1934. The Port of Sacramento has been plagued with operating losses in recent years and faces bankruptcy. This severe loss in business is due to the heavy competition from the Port of Stockton, which has a larger facility and a deeper channel. As of 2006, the city of West Sacramento took responsibility for the Port of Sacramento. During the Vietnam War era, the Port of Sacramento was the major terminus in the supply route for all military parts, hardware and other cargo going into Southeast Asia. In 1967, Ronald Reagan became the last governor of California to live permanently in the city. A new executive mansion, constructed by private funds in a Sacramento suburb for Reagan, remained vacant for nearly 40 years and was recently sold by the state. The 1980s and 1990s saw the closure of several local military bases: McClellan Air Force Base, Mather Air Force Base, and Sacramento Army Depot. In 1980, there was another flood. The flood's damage affected the boat section of Interstate 5. The culmination of a series of storms as well as a faulty valve are believed to have caused this damage. In the early 1990s, Mayor Joe Senna attempted to lure the Los Angeles Raiders football team to Sacramento, selling $50 million in bonds as earnest money. When the deal fell through, the bond proceeds were used to construct several large projects, including expanding the Sacramento Convention Center complex and refurbishing of the Memorial Auditorium. Senna renamed a city park for migrant worker rights activist Cesar Chavez. Through his effort, Sacramento became the first major city in the country to have a paid municipal holiday honoring Chavez. In spite of military base closures and the decline of agricultural food processing, Sacramento has continued to experience population growth in recent years. Primary sources of population growth are an influx of residents from the nearby San Francisco Bay Area, as well as immigration from Asia and Latin America. From 1990 to 2000, the city's population grew by 14.7%. The Census Bureau estimates that from 2000 to 2007, the county's population increased by nearly 164,000 residents. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Mayor Heather Fargo made several abortive attempts to provide taxpayer financing of a new sports arena for the Maloof brothers, owners of the Sacramento Kings NBA basketball franchise. In November 2006, Sacramento voters soundly defeated a proposed sales tax hike to finance the plan. The defeat was due in part to competing plans for the new arena and its location. In 2002, Time magazine featured an article recognizing Sacramento as the most diverse and integrated city in America. Despite a devolution of state bureaucracy, the state government remains by far Sacramento's largest employer. The city of Sacramento expends considerable effort to keep state agencies from moving outside the city limits. In addition, many federal agencies have offices in Sacramento. The California Supreme Court normally sits in nearby San Francisco. Geography and climate. Geography. According to the United States Census Bureau, the city covers an area of 100.1 square miles, 97.81% of it land, and 2.19% of it water. Depth to groundwater is typically about 30 feet. Much of the land to the west of the city is permanently reserved for a vast flood control basin, due to the city's historical vulnerability to floods. As a result, the greater metropolitan area sprawls only 4 miles west of downtown but 30 miles northeast and east, into the Sierra Nevada foothills, and 10 miles to the south into valley farmland. The city is located at the confluence of the Sacramento River and the American River, and has a deep water port connected to the San Francisco Bay by a channel through the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta. It is the shipping and rail center for the Sacramento Valley. Food processing is among the major industries in the area. Cityscape city neighborhoods. The city groups most of its neighborhoods into 4 areas. Area 1. Alkali Flat Boulevard Park, Campus, Commons, Sacramento State, Dos Rios Triangle, Downtown, East Sacramento, Fab 40s Mansion Flats, Marshall School, Midtown, New Era Park, Newton Booth, Old Sacramento, Poverty Ridge, Richards, Richmond Grove, River Park, Elmhurst, Sierra Oaks, Southside Park. Area 2. Airport, Carlton Tract, Freeport Manor, Golf Course Terrace, Greenhaven, Curtis Park, Hollywood Park, Land Park, Little Pocket, Mangan Park, Meadowview, Parkway Pocket, Sacramento City College, Southland Park, Valley High, North Laguna, Zedberg Park. Area 3. Alhambra Triangle, Avondale, Brentwood, Carlton Tract, Colonial Heights, Colonial Village North, Curtis Park, Elmhurst, Fairgrounds, Florin Industrial Park, Fruitridge Manor, Glen Elder, Glenbrick, Granite Regional Park, Lawrence Park, Med Center, North City Farms, Oak Park, Packard Bell, South City Farms, Southeast Village, Tahoe Park East, Tahoe Park South, Talek Village, Vintage Park, Churchill Downs, and Woodbine. Area 4. Ben Alley, Del Paso Heights, Gardenland, Hagenwood, McClellan Heights West, Natomas, North Sacramento, Northgate, Robler, Swanston Estates, Terrace Manor, Valley View Acres, and Woodlake. Other areas. Additional prominent regions and neighborhoods in the city include American River Parkway, Arden Fair, Cal Expo, Capitol Avenue, Coffing, College Glen, College Greens, Colonial Manor, Cordova, Creekside, East Fruitridge, Elder Creek, Elkhorn, Elvers, Erickson Industrial Park, Excelsior Sunrise, Foothill Farms, Franklin, Freights Ranch, Gateway Center, Gateway West, Glenwood Meadows, Hanson Park, Heritage Park, Johnson Business Park, Johnson Heights, Mayhew, Metro Center, Mills, Natomas Corporate Center, Natomas Creek, Natomas Crossing, Natomas Park, Newton Booth, Noralto, North Point, Norwood, Oak Knoll, Old North Sacramento, Parker Homes, Point West, Raleigh Industrial Park, Regency Park, Richardson Village, Richmond Grove, Rosemont, Sierra Oaks, Sports Complex, Strawberry Manor, Sundance Lake, Swanston Palms, Town and Country Village, Upperland Park, Village 5, Village 7, Village 12, Village 14, Village Green, Warega, Walsh Station, West El Paso Heights, Westlake, Willow Creek, Wills Acres, Wind Park, Woodside and Youngs Heights. Climate. Sacramento has a Mediterranean climate, characterized by damp to wet, mild winters and hot, dry summers. The wet season is generally October through April, though there may be a day or two of light rainfall in June or September. The normal annual mean temperature is 61.0 degrees Fahrenheit, with the monthly daily average temperature ranging from 46.4 degrees Fahrenheit in December to 75.5 degrees Fahrenheit in July. Summer heat is often moderated by a sea breeze known as the Delta breeze, which comes through the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta from the San Francisco Bay, and temperatures cool down sharply at night. The foggiest months are December and January. Tuile fog can be extremely dense, lowering visibility to less than 100 feet and making driving conditions extremely hazardous. Chilling Tuile fog events have been known to last for several consecutive days or weeks. During Tuile fog events, temperatures do not exceed 50 degrees. Snowfall is rare in Sacramento, which is only 25 feet above sea level. In the downtown area, there have been only 3 significant snow accumulations since 1900, the last one being in 1976. During especially cold winter and spring storms, intense showers do occasionally produce a significant amount of hail, which can create hazardous driving conditions. Snowfall that does fall in the city often melts upon ground contact, with traceable amounts occurring in some years. Significant annual snow accumulations occur in the foothills located 40 miles east of the city, which had brief and traceable amounts of snowfall in January 2002, December 2009, and February 2011. On average, there are 73 days where the high exceeds 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and 14 days where the high exceeds 100 degrees Fahrenheit on the other extreme. There are 15 days where the temperature does not exceed 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and 15 freezing nights per year. Official temperature extremes range from 18 degrees Fahrenheit on December 22, 1990 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit on June 15, 1961. A station around 5 miles east-southeast of the city dipped to 17 degrees Fahrenheit on December 11, 1932. The average annual precipitation is 18.52 inches. On average, precipitation falls on 60 days each year in Sacramento, and nearly all of this falls during the winter months. Average January rainfall is 3.67 in, and measurable precipitation is rare during the summer months. In February 1992, Sacramento had 16 consecutive days of rain, resulting in an accumulation of 6.41 in for the period. On rare occasions, monsoonal moisture surges from the desert southwest can bring upper-level moisture to the Sacramento region, leading to increased summer cloudiness, humidity, and even light showers and thunderstorms. Monsoon clouds do occur, usually during late July through early September. Sacramento is the second most flood-susceptible city in the United States, after New Orleans. Sacramento has been noted as being the sunniest location on the planet for 3 months of the year, from July through September. It holds the distinction as the sunniest month, in terms of percent possible sunshine, of anywhere in the world. July in Sacramento averages 14 hours and 12 minutes of sunshine per day, amounting to approximately 98% of possible sunshine.